The Rothschilds know the truth. The Warburgs know the truth. The Oppenheimers know the truth.
That's right.
But they're trying to strangle hip-hop because hip-hop, as it came to birth, Afrika Bambaataa took his game set from the Black Spades in New York and converted it to Zulu Nation. And it was the Nation of Islam, the FOI, and the guards that were on the streets interacting with the gang members that broke down the gangs, and they did it peacefully, not through violence. They did it through knowledge, like the brother said, which is the first principle in supreme mathematics. And if you don't have any knowledge of yourself, somebody's going to take control of you.
Absolutely.
And they're putting a cap on the knowledge, and that's why these schools, these institutions cost so much money now. $30,000 to go to this college. $40,000. I went to Syracuse University. It cost $60,000 to go there now. I graduated in '86, and it was $14,000 to go there. We thought that was a lot of money. But they're trying to put a cap on the knowledge so that you don't what? Grow.
And just to add on, just to add another layer to things, I made knowledge born in this yesterday, and I have to share this just on the things that he's touching on. The thing that makes hip-hop dangerous, and it used to be called, as Chuck D used to say, it's the CNN of the black community. Because we, through the drum, we always communicated. And that was an element that was, even if he was from one tribe, he might have been Mandingo, I might have been another tribe, but we might not have spoke the same dialect, but through that drum we might have been able to communicate, and that drum was taken to take away that aspect of our communal and our communication. So with hip-hop, brothers on the East Coast now was relating and talking about their story, their experiences, and such like that. And brothers on the West Coast were telling theirs, or people from down south. Everybody had a different layer, a different aspect, which made them, in their own voice and style, unique. And what really made it dangerous was, like, as me as a teen, you had brothers wearing African medallions, you know, wearing shirts like it's a black thing you wouldn't understand. Because we in the 80s. So, you know, just like, you know, you had brothers and sisters, like, say, in the 80s, you had shows like Different World, and, you know, that, like, say, here at HU, that was the one, 1988 was one of the biggest enrollments, because it was like a perfect storm, because you had Spike Lee doing his films, like Do the Right Thing, School Days, and everything else, and hip-hop was the soundtrack to all these things. And when we talk about hip-hop as a power in the youth is what they fear. They say, if you cut off the head, what happens to the body? That's right. And the youth are the future. And with that youth, like you said, all rebel movements were sparked by the youth. And when the youth were talking upon with their free mind and things in which they experienced, like one of the first revolutionary or conscious records was The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. The MC was MC Melly Mel. And in that same year, you also had Run DMC who had It's Like That. That was because of Reaganomics. That's what sparked that thing. Because people were, you know, just as you have right now, you have the recession going on. It was hard times. And they were speaking upon the ills and the social conditions in which they were plagued with. So it could be a tool, it could be a weapon, if you know how to use it and point it in the right direction. And if the youth could either be led in the right direction or they could be led astray in the wrong direction.
So to add on, in the golden age of hip-hop, what I call it, the major influences were brothers and sisters that were 5%. You know, that's Big Daddy Kane right there. A lot of people didn't know he was in our nation, and most women just thought he was a sex symbol. That's funny. But from the birth and the beginning of when hip-hop started to become, before it became commercial, there was a movement moving amongst the mind state of the youth. And we were starting to make money and change our living conditions. We were starting to listen to the rappers or the MCs on who and which politically direction we should be thinking. And there was a plan. That's all I got to say. There was a plan to derail that, because by the 90s, when things started to pop off in America, the minister was making his move. Islam was prevalent in the street. We had the riots out LA. We had other riots. They even cut up here in DC a little bit. These were the top brothers that was influencing hip-hop. Brand Nubians. We was wearing black medallions. Spike Lee had Do the Right Thing. Keep going through. We had Poor Righteous Teachers. Rock This Funky Joint. Keep going. We had Wu-Tang Clan coming in. And they took Islam around the world. And they were known members in our nation. Queen Latifah, before, whatever she's on now, that's now. But back when she had Ladies First, it was Queen Latifah, she was heavily influenced by these teachers. She ran with a brother named Lakim Shabazz. He had Black is Back. See, we were talking about the liberation of our people. First, the liberation of our mind state into the freedom of your own culture. Get away from the spook God and Christianity. Get away from religion within itself that kept you subjugated to something that you could not see, nor hear, nor touch, nor taste, that kept you enslaved from striving to be the best that you can be. We had Fuji. Their very first album, they yelled 5% of 5% so much, I had to start asking questions. What parliament they been in? But it was the consciousness of the 5%ers, and that's what I'm speaking on, because that's what the brother asked me to speak about today.
Yes.
That was very instrumental in hip-hop. In the 90s, these were the top sellers before, like the brother said, it became strip-hop or pop-hop or whatever it is nowadays.
I just want to interject. I see we go into now. We also can't forget the contributions of Public Enemy, X-Clan. We had many different great groups that were doing very instrumental into the growth and development of, hip-hop and sparking people to be conscious at that time. The late, great Tupac Shakur.
What about Nas? What about
Okay.
Nas?
Indeed.
We get there. Other thing I wanted to say, and this is just from walking the footsteps through the five, being in the five, and eventually going to the Nation of Islam and Farrakhan, but I want to say this, that it's a beautiful thing to look back and reflect on that history, because I was in the studio with RZA when he was just Prince Rakim, when he did
Oh, we love you, Rakim.
We Love You, Rakim, right? And I'll tell you a quick, short, funny story. He asked me to come to that video shoot. It was in Left Rack City in Queens, and he said, "Sean, man, you gonna come?" I was like, I got other things I got to do, man. I was like, I don't really have time for that. Because at the time, I was the only guy that was writing books. So my mission was, got to work this next book, get this next book out, or whatever. So, we would all get together, Divine Meltwan, him, myself, and a few other people in the studio. He had his mission that he was on. He was telling me about the Wu-Tang at the time, but I just couldn't see. I said, how are 9 brothers going to get paid? I said, I just don't see it. And then Jizza, the genius, he was trying to sing. You remember when Jizza was trying to sing? He made, ooh, come through me. Come on. Hold up on YouTube. You want to see something that's funny?
But why was he doing songs like Come Do Me?
And
Rakim, RZA doing Oh We Love You, Rakim. Why was that?
Master Pale, and was, they were trying to cross over.
This was 1991.
Yeah, this was the early 90s, and so you have to understand what was beginning to happen. Rakim was the first rapper that got he got a $2 million contract, and other guards started to jump on it. Big Daddy Kane, yeah, that sex symbol, Big Daddy Kane, he did pose in Playgirl. I don't know if y'all had that in the back. Yeah, he did that. Yeah, he did. But Big Daddy Kane was King Asiatic.
Nobody's equal.
Nobody's equal, and also within his name is Ka, which is a part of the Arabic Kaaba, the Kaaba, the house of Abraham in Mecca, but Ka also deals with what? Spirit. And so again, once again, spirituality and hip hop. So within the mathematics of the 5% is that, which actually comes out of problem number 13 in the problem book of the Nation of Islam, the 10 numbers and the 26 letters, ain't nothing but the English alphabet and your 1 through 9 on into the cipher. But the number 9, which is actually an Arabic character above certain, letters within the Arabic alphabet, that 9 means born. And so in the 90s, hip-hop was born. Even though it was brought forth in the late 1970s, early 1980s, it came to completion. And it really came to physical birth worldwide over the 196,940,000 square miles of the planet Earth. Okay? And the presence and the impact with Public Enemy coming hard, Poor Righteous Teachers coming hard, and the teaching that was going on, and they self-destruction.
Yes,
you know, the rappers
KRS-One, we can't
right.
forget the teacher.
That's right. Came together, and you know, the government was watching. They're like, God, if we don't put this in check. And remember, at this time, the supreme vocalist in the black community, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, was traveling around the country doing Stop the Violence lectures all over the country. And what came to fruition in 1995? On the Mall, the Million Man March. I'll never forget it. Biggie was out in the crowd. All of the rappers were out. Everything stopped that day. It was like the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. Everything stopped. There wasn't one homicide in D.C. And at that time, the government said, hold up, wait a minute. If we don't stop this, forget the cowboy of Mexico. They're going to be making pilgrimage every year to D.C. And all of the violence that they make a lot of money off of, that the police precincts, they buck their salaries up off of how many young black brothers that die every day. Because, see, if we don't practice the foolishness in the streets, then they don't have a job. Okay, so they had to do something to cut a shortage in that, and we saw the inside job, otherwise known as 9/11, happen. So, but we in the 90s, and we got to really take a really key look at this and understand the spiritual warfare that's going on right now.
And we also have to address the divide and conquer that had happened. Right. And the thing is this, the crossroads is 1990 or 91, because if you understand the laws of magnetism, you could be attracted to on a positive charge or on a negative charge. You could be influenced either which way. On the positive side, one of the kings of the positivity was Public Enemy. And the impact and influence, when we talk about Do the Right Thing, one of the greatest songs that's considered as a hip-hop classic is Fight the Power. Right. That was a strong song. And it scared people so much they thought young black brothers is going to be throwing garbage cans through pizzerias throughout this whole country. So y'all so young, y'all might not even conceive that even being in such a warrant of worry. And it was a climate that was being born, manifested. Now, me being in the music industry since I was 14 years old, I've seen the growth and development and the destruction and working at different labels. I used to work at Def Jam Records during the time of the so-called East Coast, West Coast war. And me being so ingrained with it, I knew that the games that was being played, just like they were doing with the Black Power movement, they were doing with hip-hop. Same things, you're going to see all the parallels, just like the hip-hop police, COINTELPRO. Right. They were doing all kinds of different things, like the Fugees, which he raised the record up early, had an event in Harlem called Hoodstock. And it was a positive event, a free concert, all the top artists at that time. This was 1996. And I saw it for myself because of the viewpoint vantage that I had, because I was standing up on a garden post. But long story short, there was no violence, and the camera crews were there, and they weren't filming any of it. But then I seen one brother run across, he ran and grabbed the money, and somebody else came over here, and then there was a third direction where somebody shot in the air, and then everybody dispersed, and it turned into a riot type situation because everybody now fleeing for their lives. This sounds familiar, something like, get your hand out of my pocket. Because you had one diversion going over here, another going over here. So all these different tactics were being done because of the positivity that was being built and being instrumental of cultural and mental, spiritual upliftment that was going on. So I also, like I said, working in the music industry, I was born yesterday, like Hot 97, all the power stations, the KISS stations, they would either run on MS Communications or Clear Channel. And they actually, like when Professor X of X-Clan had died, I was at his wake, and I was building with Ralph McDaniel. He's a legendary video show called Video Music Box in New York, and Mr. C of the Big Dog Pitbulls. They had to bring their own records to do a tribute for Professor X because out of the millions of songs that's in the database of Hot 97, there is no conscious music in there. There is no conscious music in there. So since 1991, we've had a steady diet of sex, drugs, violence, misogyny, etc., that this is being fed to the youth. So I'm not going to say hip-hop is the cause of all the problems that obviously these problems have been in our hood, but they also being propagated through that. That's why a radio show or a television show is called what? A program. We're beings of social conditioning. What are you being conditioned to? Because music is a part of black people's lives, and like the brother said about rhythm, we have melanin. That's just the complexion of your skin. That's also the formulation of your mind and body. And we absorb all this energy on a high level. So when we get absorbing all this negative imagery, and even with the power of video, when it goes from the mind, just at the split, if you hear that's a fraction of a song, at the speed of thought, you're seeing a whole music video inside of your head. So whether it's rolling going side to side, keep your hands high, or if it's drugs or half-naked women and all these different things, these are things that's being inscribed in our children's mind. So even when we watch certain videos or movies or whatever, you're seeing death on a movie screen. You might not even know how to make drugs or how to make crack cocaine, but if you watch certain movies or videos, now you might know how to. So it went from being a teaching tool or a tool to also teach and cultivate on you to something that was poisonous. So it's, it's not a mystery that things are the way they are right now, from it being, as we talked about earlier, something that was positive. It's because it's corporate now, and the corporate people have their own self-interest, and they talk about all these brand names and labels. In 1982, Run DMC said, Calvin Klein's no friend of mine, won't wear his name on my behind. Versus now, every other song about Versace, Gucci, Pastor Cavassier. So all these things are being done. These are many commercials that we have right now. That's not about upliftment. That's not about your spirituality. That's not talking to and opening up the chakras or the energies inside your mind. Well, we're going to have a Q&A shortly, so make sure you remember your question. Go ahead, brother.
The reality of it is, the devil teaches daily his unrighteousness. In everything that we do, he's teaching it to the baby, through music videos, through the reality shows, and planting things inside the subconscious.
That's right.
Where you got 4- and 5-year-olds shaking and gyrating.
That's right.
And they don't know why. You don't know why as a parent, but you don't know they didn't turn that TV on late night while you were at rest. And these are the images that are being fed dead. But it's our duty of being aware and conscious to feed our children daily with righteousness. And this is a hip-hop form, so every artist that's in here, we have to make a conscious effort to combat the nonsense. That's the reason for this form, to raise the call, to combat what's going on outside of here. Because obviously everyone here is aware of something, that's why we're here. And this is a form to reinvigorate, but we have to get some more young. We got to get our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews. We're up here at Howard University. I don't know how many Howard students are here. Are there any Howard students here? Definitely appreciate you. That's the future leaders for our community. But they have to have the right consciousness and direction so they're not leading our people or keeping our people in slavery. See, as leaders, we have to lead towards freedom.
Yes.
When you leave this university, you should be establishing your own businesses. Not looking for a job from the enemy. Do what you got to do, but the ultimate goal is to be self-sufficient. See, around the 90s, that's when the big money came into hip-hop. And that's when brothers really began to literally sell their soul. I'm not talking about to a spook, making a deal with the devil. I'm talking about making a deal with the real devil. We give you a few $1 million if you put this filth farm filth out here amongst our business. And I'm going to call it out, Lil Wayne. I love Jay-Z's music to a degree, but what is the image that he's presenting out to the young? Since the 90s. 95, 96, now he became super hustler. You understand?
Even before that, he was an Ansar.
He was an Ansar, dealing with some form of consciousness. See, in the 90s, we were on top as far as the conscious in hip hop. Then they came out with NWA and the West Coast movement. Now it was about